is good for the eyes, good for the soul, and good for collage. What is your source and what inspires you? Today's video, a little something different. I have here labels collected from wine bottles and beer. Confession, whenever I do gambling, like when I go to the racetrack, I bet on the horse that I like the name of the horse. That's what I base my gambling acumen on, which is terrible. I don't gamble much, and that's why I'm not rich from gambling, thank goodness. But that's what I do. Now, in choosing certain wine bottles, I base it on whether or not I like the label. If they're pretty, I go ahead and give that vino a try. I have lots of these Prophecy Pinot Grigio bottle labels. It's not a bad brand, but I sure do love the artwork. And some that are more common. Here's another IPA. How do I get the labels off of the bottles? There are wonderful tutorials on YouTube that will share the exacts. But what I do is I put the bottle into a 350 degree oven, 10 minutes, carefully peel it off because it's super hot, and then quickly apply it to either parchment or wax paper, which I have plenty of, and smash it between some big books and keep it until I'm ready to use it. I have used a couple of wine labels before in my collage work. I especially love this one because of the sun, the celestial feel, and it's a circle, and you know I love my circles. So today what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and create a collage based only on these wine labels that I have and see what I come up with. The caveat will be I might possibly use other ephemera, maybe for a background. I started looking at this and it's kind of matching with the direction that I want to go in. So we got our wine labels ready, and I'm going to start doing some cutting in time lapse. When the bottle is removed from the oven at 350 degrees and applied to wax paper, the adhesive is still fairly strong. So I go ahead and apply it to wax paper, which I did in this case. Not a bad thing. It's actually pretty easy to peel off again. And believe it or not, if you take the opportunity to use the 350 degree oven to remove your wine bottle labels, that adhesive still is fairly sticky. This is still really sticky. And wax paper is the best platform to put it on afterwards. A lot of stickiness still here. That's probably going to help in general with the final collage and adhering it to a background, if I adhere it to a background. But I actually want to use this image as a background. I think it'll work really well. I peeled off the wax paper. Not sure if I should have because it's still pretty sticky. So I think I'm simply going to place it back on. But when you remove that label from the bottle after it's been in the oven, that adhesive is going to be extremely sticky still, and it will remain on back of the label. So get it on some wax or parchment paper really, really quick. Now, the thing I have to remember, though, is even though I removed most of the wax paper from the back of this label, I still have some left. So this might cause a problem for me if I want to adhere it to something later. It's just something to bear in mind. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to peel off all of the wax paper. Here comes some now. And it actually makes for a tacky background. And besides, I can always come in with my X-Acto and scratch up the surface of the wax paper to create some tooth if I need to apply it to something else. sea glass rocks, I went ahead and made some precise cuts. So I might be able to tuck them in on that piece of image. This is going to be a little tricky. On the piece of magazine image I really wanted to use on here, so it's not strictly a wine label collage. It's 90%, maybe 80% wine label collage. I just want to tuck some of the pieces in to make it look like they kind of belong. I kept the white portion. I don't know why I did, just because. Is it going to work? I have a little bit more here. I want to just trim away. So white stands out when you do stuff like this, when you tuck ephemera onto ephemera. So you have to kind of be cognizant of it. I really like that blue, this blue rock right here. I want it to be prominent. So I'm going to tuck in the bigger sea green rocks. Try to anyway, like this. And see, I have some here. It's definitely cut away, and I want to cut even more now. That's why I don't normally like doing this for these kind of projects, these kind of images, because now I feel the need to hide that. So this is how it might work. It's a little tricky. I like tucking in my collages because then they feel like somehow they were meant to be together this way. I think it kind of works. I'll play with that a little bit more. Still setting up the composition. She obviously became my focal point. I saved pieces from cutting out one of the stars on the label. These are a possibility for something else later. They are very small, so the chances of them showing up in another collage in their own design aren't highly likely. Not likely they'll show up in this one today, but nonetheless, because they're deriving some type of interest for me, setting them off to the side. I was going to use this also, this label, but I'm not sure. In any case, everything is getting set up to the side. Nothing's getting tossed just yet, because I am still... Oh my gosh, that's really bugging me, that bit of white. I'm going to keep cutting here. I don't want to cut too much because I need it, but it looks like I'm going to be cutting it all away. I might end up doing that, I don't know. Because the white is so stark against it, that's why. Okay. A lot of delicate cutting. I'm also cutting through wax paper on the back of this wine label, just because that's how it's working. And wax paper, of course, is very easy to cut through. So here's where I'm at. I actually had a bit of a rip up here that I want to cover up. I think she'll help with that, as she's definitely going to be the focal point. Originally, I thought it was going to be my IPA skull guy. I'll save him for something later, I think. I have a twin of him over here, and I can definitely somehow use that in another collage. Wish I had a couple more bottles of that, though. Wish I saved a couple more of those labels. But my editor enjoyed the IPA, so maybe we'll indulge again and get something like that. So let's see. I'm looking at this. I obviously stole this from a magazine. It's not part of a wine label. I really love this. I'm not crazy about the white, but that's a lot of cutting. So I'm being lazy. Maybe I'll just have it like peering over this way so we have a feel of the eyes. And that being said, I went ahead and where did I put it? I cut another sun out from the dry Riesling bottle. And I don't know where I put it. I did cut it out. You guys saw me, right? I don't know where I did with it. I'll find it. There was also this little star that I cut from the Pinot Grigio bottle. A lot of great imagery on this Pinot Grigio bottle. Obviously, the female image and the star, a little waterfall. So hanging on to that. But I am wondering what I did with that extra sun, because we have some nice circular stuff going on. I was going to put one there. And I was going to use this as her background for here. Along those lines, I thought about tucking this so it bookends with our other border here. And I wanted to use these stones, obviously. I am really wondering what did I do with that sun? I'm almost going to play back my video to see what I did with it. That's crazy. That's how quickly things can disappear. Also, getting back to those wine labels that I did cut, there's still a lot of interesting imagery on them and color that I may want to use in other collages. I have used these little stars before in other collages, so I'm not tossing that just yet. Some of the pieces are itty bitty, but well, look at that. I mean, it just reminds you of Middle Earth, something like that. And they really have some wonderful illustrators for these bottles. And I'm going to make use of them. But gosh, what did I do with that extra sun? I know I cut it out. I'm going to have to go off camera and find it. I found it pretty quickly. Stuck to the back of the label. Ha! Well, my work was not in vain. I thought I was going nuts there for a minute. But you guys are my witnesses. You saw me cut it out. But it was back on the very sticky label of this background we're going to be using. Okay. I think we're ready to start building, putting this collage together. Definitely a minimal type of collage. We have, this was the only piece that had magazine in it. And I was going to use this one also. I'll get to that in just a second. I may or may not use that. I did want to use these rocks. Put them in there just so. Okay, kind of like the way that looks. And I'm going to place her, well, I wanted to kind of place her here so it looks like she's pouring into the rocks and dipping her leg into the rocks as well. And then come here with our nice graphic designy label, hide it, so it kind of just highlights her. And it's a nice juxtaposition because she's very illustraty. Is that a word? She's very much illustrated. That is a word. While the label is more graphic design. There we go. So something along those lines. I love her star. Now we don't have a lot of contrast here. Am I going to use it? I might place it like right here. Possibly. Now remember, I wanted to use these suns, and I'm a big fan of the circle, so you guys know where I'm going with this. I might put something here, or what I might do is something like this. Half here, I can use these silvery parts, the silver center, to guide me. So it only shows portions of the eye. You don't see the entire sun. And then over here, same thing. Don't see the entire sun. Just like it's peering at what she's doing. Kind of a, what do they call it? Not an exhibitionist, voyeur maybe, I think is the word. I may not need this after all. I thought it would kind of look good with, bordering. Yeah, her star looks good there. I think it's done. I think this is it. I'm going to do some cleaning up and come back to you with the final image. We are done. Something of a minimal collage. I like the balance of the suns on the star, also kind of corresponds with the circular imagery that's going on. While the sea rocks are not circular, they're certainly biomorphic and soft, so they also complement that feeling too. We have a lot of green going on. And like I shared before, green is good for our eyes, good for our soul, and it's definitely good for collage. So here we are, my 99%, well, let's say 90% first wine label collage. This part isn't a wine label, but that's okay. So I hope you took something away from this itty bitty tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thanks for watching.